In another stunning example of how far tyrants will push their attacks on rights once a few generations have accepted their terminology and previous incremental attacks, the Biden Department of so-called Justice announced on April 11th the final rules it will impose on gun show sellers and their customers. Ah, yes, rules. Let's call them what they are: government threats and mandates. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV, and here's the story. D. Michael DeRitter reports for The New American that the new so-called rules mandate that gun show sellers get a license based on, of course, whether the government says the sellers are engaged in trade predominantly for profit. And, of course, the government will make that determination itself anytime and change it anytime they want to. The same government, of course, is that ever-expanding hive of spies and thugs and regulators and tax service agents that forces us to pay them. And then they have the audacity to claim the power to make us go to them to get permission to engage in peaceful commerce. Which side is the aggressive danger here? And how is it that supposedly free people have to get a license, aka a permission slip, from the government in order to engage in free commerce with other willing individuals? Writes DeRitter, quote, "The Department of Justice, DOJ, this morning announced changes to its definition of engaged in the business of firearms sales. The sale of firearms between private individuals currently does not require a purchaser to undergo a background check unless required by state law. The new federal rule would require a background check on all firearms sales," Attorney General Merrick B. Garland stated today. "Under this regulation, it will not matter if guns are sold on the internet, at a gun show, or at a brick-and-mortar store. If you sell guns predominantly to earn a profit, you must be licensed. You must conduct background checks," Garland said. Curiously, the federal licensing mandate, the federal background check mandate, and all state impediments to the peaceful acquisition of a gun are immoral and unconstitutional. The Department of Justice doesn't mention that, and DeRitter adds, quote, "The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, passed in 2022, redefined the definition of engaging in the business of dealing in firearms." Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco stated, "The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act enhanced background checks and closed loopholes, including by redefining when a person is engaged in the business of dealing in firearms. Today's rule clarifying application of that definition will save lives by requiring all those in the business of selling guns to get a federal license and run background checks, thus keeping guns out of the hands of violent criminals." It's difficult to fathom why political hacks keep repeating their "guns out of the hands of violent criminals" canard, when not only does history show that prohibition doesn't stop black market suppliers from meeting demand, but also criminals themselves change their behavior to avoid armed civilians, thus making impediments to civilian gun ownership both immoral and dangerous. This new facet of the federal onslaught is, like all others, a stark affront to the U.S. Constitution, the founders, and our rights. It breaches the Second Amendment's prohibition that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It breaches the Fourth Amendment because it demands private information from people and businesses before they can exercise a right, meaning it is a de facto unwarranted search and seizure of opportunity through the act of prohibition. It also is a breach of the Fifth and 14th Amendment promises of due process and a breach of the 8th Amendment's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Of course, no trial means that any punishment is unusual. But it does more than draw attention to those important points. It allows one to give pause to the very definition of the term violent criminals. If the U.S. Constitution is supposed to be the law of the land by which all levels of government action are to be measured and adjudged, but these people openly breach it, would it not be appropriate to use the term violent criminals to describe these government agents? Who are the bad guys? The peaceful arms traders and buyers? Or the government parasites who issue these kinds of threats and have at the ready armed government agents to attack those who don't want to comply? The founders added the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution specifically to forbid this kind of statist move against our rights. They didn't want a standing army in the form of anything except the bulk of the population who are physically able to bear arms. That is us. Not the DOJ, not the ATF, not the armed guards around Biden and his congressional pals who repeatedly and hypocritically tell us we can't be armed as we would want. They claim that they're closing the gun show loophole, which actually is called freedom, as the founders would have wanted it. They claim that they're closing this loophole, and yet they're the ones who are making their own loopholes around the Constitution. Their hypocrisy is as powerful as their disrespect for us and the Constitution itself. This DOJ move informs us that the situation is quite dire, and we can keep in mind that the politicians have gotten here because many generations of Americans did not teach their kids or tell their friends about natural rights and the Constitution. Political thieves prey on ignorance. They prey on sloth, or even the simple focus that people have on daily life. They prey on the fact that many people are so busy with important personal matters or their jobs that they can't keep track of all the crooked government moves. Thus, we can see that even if we can't stop the DOJ action, educating people is important if we want to see changes in the future. Well, perhaps this new attack on our rights might demand that more people teach friends and family members and loved ones all of these facts right now. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe and share these videos far and wide. Find us on Rumble where they don't censor us, and please follow us there too. Remember, check out Rumble, follow us, you'll see all the videos from MRC-TV. Now, if you go to YouTube, you'll see most of the videos from MRC-TV, but YouTube is censorious. We're also over there. If you're watching there, please give it the thumbs up and share the videos as well. And of course, find us anytime at MRCTV.org. MRCTV.org. Check out what the whole team is doing. Check out the MRC Store and consider donating to the Media Research Center. You can also find us on TikTok, on Instagram, and on X. And if you want to contact me, you can find me on Gab as @GardnerGoldsmith, and on Twitter/X, you'll find me as @GuardGoldsmith. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please share the videos. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.
I want to invite you as my guest on a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, 7-day post-election cruise in the Caribbean. It's going to be a blast.